What are you doing over there?
I think we are officially live, Ben. How you
We're
doing
live.
today?
I'm
I
good.
feel like the man is against us. We can't get a solid time here, but we're here. We're back. It's the two of us. How you doing today?
I'm all right. Happy Friday, as always. Things are good. Things are busy. College basketball has started, and that's just sports overload for me. But we're here talking NFL spreads. We're gonna get into some college football. We're gonna get into a little of everything. It's freezing in New York. I like that. I like the cold. So all good things here. How about you?
I do not like the cold, and it's nice and warm here, so I'm happy about that. No fires, at least that I know of. Knock on wood. That was kind of an issue for last week. So you and Nolan took over in my stead. So appreciate that.
Yeah, nice to have you back in business.
Yeah, everything's good. Like you said, this is really a crazy time of year. We can go in so many directions. I know we're going to go through our NFL picks, of course. We might dabble in some college football, college basketball. You and I were betting on some
NBA.
NBA this week that we hit. It's been a pretty good week. I don't know how your week's been going.
Yeah, it's been actually it's been good. It's been structured weird because there's been college football like a couple games every day, and then like college basketball. We certainly had a wild game last night. I did not bet it. Typical Chargers, just doing Charger like things, and now we have a lot of competitive games on the schedule for this one.
Yeah, it's a really interesting weekend. So before we get into that, I do want to give a quick shout to our sponsor. We're going to be a professional show today. At least we're going to try our best. EV analytics, betting models, real-time odds, stats, whatever your betting needs, make sure to check them out. One thing that we haven't mentioned is that we do have odds on the Awesemo site, and those are provided by EV Analytics. So go check that out. Help support us, support them. Really appreciate that. One other thing that I don't think we've ever mentioned is that we also have a promo code. Did you know this, Ben?
I honestly did not.
We're moving up in the world slowly, very slowly, but it is Awesemo Odds, one word, and that will get you 50% off any monthly package on the site. Obviously, you see all the content that is being produced, including a ton by Ben in front of the paywall and behind the paywall. So make sure to check out all the tools, software, data, everything on the site. One thing that I've been looking at lately, I don't know if you know this, Ben, but Awesemo, Alex himself, has been posting uh, his NBA projections. There's also a tab for his projected stats. Have you been looking at that at all?
I have. See, I'm learning. This show apparently is just a tutorial for me. I didn't know any of this. But it's funny you say that because I've had a lot of people, certainly in Slack, message me, and they've said very nice things about my content. Them providing a ton of betting stuff, but they've mentioned a lot of things about props, and that is a tool that you can use specifically
Yes.
for that. And I think that's something that we all need to check out because props are another great way to look. Great action, and sometimes they're very soft.
Yeah, the most inefficient lines I think you can find are in props, and they do fluctuate dramatically from site to site. So just the fact that those are posted now behind the paywall is Alex's projections for specific stats. So I can't think of a better way to at least start an analysis of props than look at the actual projections.
No doubt.
Look at this knowledge. We haven't even gotten into the games yet. All right.
We're on a nice trajectory here. Let's try to keep this one steady. We're rolling here.
Can I do a victory lap from last week? I was all over a bunch of games last week. Uh,
Well, you weren't
I'm
here, so
always,
you only get partial credit, but yeah.
that's true. That's true. At least I did message you at least a few times, so it's somewhat legit at least. I think you kind of noticed like home dogs is something that I'm always going to kind of lean towards. Last Sunday, every single home team won. Did you know that's kind of a
I
crazy stat?
It's amazing that I didn't do better because I was. Oh, you know what? Now it's coming back to me. You did have a big weekend. Props to you. The team that got us both, I believe, was the Vikings, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, talk to
Yes.
me about it.
Every home team won. There's a lot of dogs in there that I had bet on and sprinkled a little bit. So obviously those home dogs also won the game. The Ravens was the big one that you and I were talking about. I feel like almost all week offline, and that got there really easily. I think I was telling you I absolutely love the
So did
Ravens, and
I.
I can only do so many victory laps. But it was just an interesting week that all the home teams won. I mean, that doesn't mean anything week to week, but just kind of interesting that you saw there's a London game thrown in there, but besides that, every single home team won on Sunday. The Monday night game was a different story. That was a ugly, ugly affair.
Yeah, I honestly, the Ravens was fantastic. Monday night was ugly, but it was a week where, we'll dive into it real quick. The Browns, I'm done. I should have been done a long time ago. It's amazing. Just to go back, we both were adamant that shorting this team was the answer, and I did in so many regards. And I've
Yep.
given it all back in periodic spots backing them. They were so bad in Denver. It was just absolutely horrendous performance.
It was, and I did have Denver, and we could talk a little bit more, but that is the best segue I've ever heard because my first pick, you're not going to believe it. It's like I'm a junkie. I'm going back to the Browns.
Yeah. I'm not doing it. Normally I'd say me too. I'm not. Go ahead. It's all yours.
This is the last time. This is. I thought they had another spot. I can't remember if it was San Francisco or who they played like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they had just the perfect spot coming off a bye, and they just laid a complete dud.
Yeah, San Francisco. And
Yeah, it was
then
San
New
Francisco, and they got
England,
crushed.
not that it was a great spot, but all of these games they should have been able to hang in and just no.
Yeah. Even that Pats game. I mean, I still think like a competently coached team, like for sure covers. Like they even had a chance in that game
Yes.
until they really just, you know, I want to use some expletives, but they just really like crap the bed. But okay, so this week they get the Bills. The Browns are on the site that we use. They're a 3-point favorite. So immediately to me, just that line. I know a lot of people have been surprised that they came out as a 2.5 to 3 point favorite. What that tells me immediately is that Vegas is begging everybody to take the Bills, which automatically should be a red flag. Like the Bills are 6-2, the Browns are, I believe, 2-6, right?
Yes.
The Bills, really for me, it's more of a fade of the Bills, which I've done a few times, somewhat successfully, sometimes not great. But the Bills have, like I said, they're 6-2. Their two losses are really the only two quality teams they played, in the Pats and the Eagles. The six teams that they have beaten have a winning percentage of about a buck 70, which is really hard to fathom how that's even possible to have six teams with such a low winning percentage. But that is accurate. And the biggest stat that I'm looking at is the Bills' run D. They're 30th ranked against the run in DVOA. Obviously that is just a recipe for Nick Chubb to go off. Kareem Hunt's coming back. I don't know how that's going to factor into this, but I'm relying obviously on Kitchens to not screw this up and just run the ball. Like just run the ball. We don't need Baker to throw it 35 times. If they could just pound it, it's supposed to be really windy, I guess, in Cleveland on Sunday. That's another factor that hopefully will allow them to just focus on running. Because if Baker starts throwing the ball, I have zero confidence in this team. So I'm going to the well. This is the last time for me if they don't get me here.
Well, I'll say this. I get it. I totally get it. I'm not a believer in the Bills, even though I'm a big Josh Allen guy. I get all that. I'm Freddie Kitchens. These coaches, there's a couple in college. Charlie Strong was one again last night with South Florida. I'm not going to get into that. It's very difficult separating what a team should do and what they will do. And the Browns are at the top of that list for me. They constantly get in their own way. But before I dive into my pick, we had a question from chat. A friend of the show, Spencer, said, new to betting, can you explain the term units? Say I have a $200 bankroll or something like that. So basically a unit, what it is, it's just you're going to divvy up your money, and then for bankroll management, it's how much you're betting. So say you're betting $10 a game, right? And one unit is $10. So if you say I want to bet 2 units, that's 20. It's just dicing up your bankroll into a small incremental, standard unit of what you want to bet each and every week. So it's just easier to do that than the monetary value. So if you see someone say I bet 5 units, you don't know exactly how much that is. It's just how much
Yeah.
they're allocating.
Yeah, I tend to use that as kind of an analytical tool when I'm looking back on how I'm doing. For a certain sport, a unit amount may be different.
Yep.
So, but I can kind of gauge. So if NFL, if $10 is a unit, I can see how many units I'm up. But let's say college basketball, it's $5 unit or $50 a unit, whatever that number is. I think you can get a better sense as to how you're doing versus just pure dollars. Especially if you can kind of stick to a certain number as at least your base unit. So for me, I think it's really helpful to go by units.
Absolutely. You want to try to be regimented, especially, if you're messing around and having some entertainment, it's not as important. But if you're really trying to grind, you want to stick to units and you want to stick to I'll be like this. If you see anyone say like I have 1,000 unit play, do not strongly recommend don't listen to those type of people. Like the old
Yes.
1,000 dimes can't miss unit play. They don't know what they're talking about. Um,
No,
that's definitely
no.
betting. Just putting
Yeah,
that
odds are you'll never see them in about 3 months after they
yeah.
lose those picks.
Yeah, no, those are not the answers, but I'm sticking my first pick to the same game. Not
Okay.
not going to the Browns, not going to the Bills. I'm going to the natural spot of the under. It's only 40 points, but this to me has the makings of an absolute 13-10 type game. You mentioned it's going to be windy. Both these teams, the pass rush of the Browns, I think is going to cause a lot of problems for the Bills. And on the other side, the Bills secondary really should cause problems for Baker. I think both
Yeah.
teams try to control it on the ground. And although that could be a recipe for points, it also could be a recipe for like 8-minute drives. I see a lot of that in this game. Miss field goals again with the wind, you don't know. So for me, this is a pretty easy number to get under. I see both teams leaning on the defense. If you avoid turnovers, I think both teams score in the teens in this one.
I like that side really a lot because I think ideally both teams are going to play relatively conservatively. I think the
Definitely.
Bills want to run the ball a ton with Singletary and Gore to some extent. And if Kitchens, like I was saying, doesn't mess this up and just hands the ball off 30 times, it's a good recipe for the under because, like you said, the clock keeps running. You get long drives. Maybe a field goal gets missed here and there because the wind. Yeah, it's a low total, but I like going under. Are you going to wait? I mean, obviously for this show, we're locking you into 40, but in real life, when you bet unders, you typically want to wait as long as possible. Is that your thoughts for this game?
It's actually not so 100% in life. I tend to do that. It's actually not only because of the weather aspect. I feel like when people see wind, sometimes that drives totals down. So I'm comfortable with it at 40 on the dot, and I locked it in already. Actually,
That's a really good point. I think people overcompensate for weather most of the
yes,
time, but wind is the one I think exception to that rule. Like rain, snow, like usually is the opposite that teams can actually score more points, but wind, especially like a consistent wind, definitely will affect the total. So you're probably right that that will affect that number.
yeah. We'll give Nolan's pick, and then we'll go right back at it. So his first one up is the tough game. Steelers plus
Ooh,
3.5 at home against the Rams. It's a game that I have absolutely no interest in, and that's because I have no feel for the game. Uh, Connor's going to be out. Juju's going to get Ramsey. I
yep.
don't know how the Steelers are going to move the ball, but on the flip side, I don't know how effective Goff is going to be against the Steelers defense.
Yeah, the Steelers defense kind of underrated, maybe not anymore, but really is incredibly strong unit. They're fifth in defense DVOA, and obviously since Fitzpatrick went over there on that trade, like that secondary has been really good. Uh, I feel like I've kind of been a broken record that I don't like Goff. I've tried to fade Goff as much as I can.
You have
I don't think it's a great spot for him. It's not one of my picks. I guess if I had to lean, I'd probably take that extra hook and take Pittsburgh.
it's
But I
tough.
don't, yeah, I don't love it.
Another good. We'll dive into our second round of picks, but this is a real good question from chat. If you typically like an under, are you more inclined to take the underdog with the points? So if it's an extreme situation, that's a correlated parlay. Most books don't allow that. If they do, you
Mm,
definitely should look into it.
yeah.
And there is something to that. So like if you have a game where it's like a 41 over under and a team is getting like 17 points or something, yeah, you can kind of think logically those two do correlate. But all in all, in a game that's close to pick 'em, it doesn't make a huge difference for me.
Yeah. One of my picks that's coming up, it's not the lowest total, but it is kind of in the middle range. And I'll get to my pick there. But do you want to, should we just throw out Nolan's second pick then? And we can
Sure,
just,
he can snake it even though he's not here.
what a snake.
Chiefs, yeah, Chiefs -6 on the road in Tennessee. I assume he assumes that Mahomes will be back in business.
Yep.
And I get it. The Titans secondary is banged up. Mahomes is quite good. They're going to just have to stop Derrick Henry. That's really what that game comes down to in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. I really wanted to kind of ride that Tannehill wave last week. Didn't quite work out for me in fantasy and in life. But yeah, It's hard. Actually, I wanted to ask you a question about this game specifically, and kind of a concept that we really haven't talked about, but I think is becoming more commonplace. Is that you have a lot of these betting, like pick'em style competitions that are becoming way more popular. There's one on DraftKings, there's one on Sugar House. You have the Vegas Super Contest, and you get these stale lines that come out like Wednesday or Thursday. And this is the prime example because the Chiefs, when the game opened, are -3, 3.5, and obviously that was before Mahomes news. And now that line has moved a full 2.5 to 3 points. In this situation, is it just an autoplay for you? There's a lot of game theory here, and I was just kind of curious. I thought I'd bring this up at some point today if we had time, and this is a good time to do it.
So it's believe me, I've been having this discussion for a while because last week, perfect example. I didn't really like the Vikings in that game, but
Exactly, me,
you have
right
to
on the
take it.
nose.
You have to take it, in my opinion. And the reason is because the public doesn't understand. If they did, game theory to me would become more prevalent, and maybe I wouldn't. But the
Yeah,
Vikings last week in a stale line pool should have been almost picked by everybody, and they were not. So to me, it comes down to long term. You were 100% beating those. You're just normally, of course, when you're betting, you're not able to lock in numbers with stale lines. But in competitions like that, and we're seeing the sites as more and more states legalize, it's going to be something we're all going to be talking about in the future. And right off the bat, one of the ways you can take advantage is by, especially if it's through a key number. So that's the other thing. The
yeah,
Vikings specifically, it was through a key number. So it's like, how do you not take that?
yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I didn't even like the Vikings then because
It's so sick.
it moved through three. Like I just had to do it. So do you think the Chiefs? So Chiefs just a kind of an autoplay this week then
Yes.
in these contests?
For me, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I will absolutely take that. I have no position on the Chiefs, and I don't think I will in life.
yeah,
Um, but in something like that, where you're getting, especially in the NFL, not to derail the show, but it's one of the more efficient markets out there.
yep,
Those points are incredibly valuable. It's hard to imagine you're not getting enough value to justify it.
yeah, yeah. I know most people are at least should be looking for that opportunity in these competitions, and we probably can talk a whole show on kind of game theory with these. But you're right. If a majority or a strong majority aren't taking advantage of it, then you just have to do it because there really
Yes.
isn't a lot of game theory then to kind of fade, a really popular pick if everybody's not doing it. If everybody is, I guess that's a different discussion.
That's the thing, and I don't think we're even close to approaching that. It depends what kind of pool you're in, of course, but if you're in
Yeah,
with a lot of casuals, I know I'm in a college football one. It's amazing. People, and not only do they not notice, they're taking the wrong side. So like people are taking like they're getting a team +4 and the team is +7.5 in real life. It's insane.
yeah, that's insane.
Then they win. It's so sick.
Yeah, and then they get there.
Of
Yeah,
course.
just
But
not right.
all right. What's your is it my turn to go here?
Yeah, it's your second pick, and then I'll go with the snake.
So this is not as bad as the Browns, but it's close.
Oh,
I like the Bears at home, -2.5,
oh,
which is just disgusting. But you know what? I think they have a formula, and it's going to piggyback what the Raiders did. I expect David Montgomery to have 20 plus carries here
yeah.
and to absolutely gut this Lions run defense. We saw the Raiders do it last week. Bears at home in the cold. Just get it done. Do not let Trubisky lose this game. And if they do that, they can lean on the defense. They can lean on Montgomery, and I think they can win this game.
It feels like kind of the same theory as the Browns. Like, just don't
Yes.
mess this up. Like, don't let the quarterback throw the ball too many times. Definitely a theme you're going to see with my picks is that I think all three of my picks are terrible teams, and that does not include the Bears, surprisingly. But I
Ooh.
did like the Bears here. I mean, you're getting them at it's 2.5, right?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great number too. If this was three,
yeah,
3.5, I probably wouldn't be saying about it.
yeah. It's bad. I mean, everybody realizes, I think now, how bad Trubisky is. Uh, I still dabble in like the Chicago sports radio scene, which is always it's basically Twitter on the radio, and everybody is just completely dumping on him, and I think appropriately. But man, they need to deflate the ball and just run it as many
Yes.
times as possible, and I think they can win the game. I've thought that several times.
It's scary. I mean, and as Chat just pointed out, the Lions, Stafford, I know he can sling it. He's a better DFS player, in my opinion, than real life quarterback.
I agree.
This is a tougher matchup than it seems. I know the Bears aren't what they were early in the year, but I'm going to lean with David Montgomery and at home. 2.5, really? I was stunned. I thought this would be certainly north of 3.
It's disrespectful
I
for
don't know
sure.
about that. It's just bad, though.
Yeah, the thing with the Lions, I mean, they really are a one-dimensional team. I mean, they have like 4 or 5 different running backs who could come in, but none of them,
Hmm.
they're not committed to running the ball at all. So they're one-dimensional. The Bears defense, yeah, it's not been like last year. They're not dominant like they were, but they're still, I think they're top 10 unit right now. Actually, they're eighth in DVOA. They're still great. And if you can just, if they know they're facing a one-dimensional team, like I'd like the Bears to get to Stafford a little bit, just pressure him. He's going to make mistakes, like you said. He's a great fantasy quarterback, but he is prone to mistakes in real life for sure. I mean, most of these guys are, but
Yes. Where are you going?
I like it. I kind of wish actually that I took the Bears instead of some of this crap that I have now. But I'm going with the Dolphins. Back to the well for me again
Oh,
with the Dolphins getting 10 and a hook. They are on the road at Indy. Part of it with Indy is they have a ton of injuries. We don't know about Brissett yet if he's going to play. Brian Hoyer is a pretty capable backup, so I don't think it's a huge drop off just as far as the quarterback play. But Hilton is out. Uh, Going into last week against Pittsburgh, the Colts had won 5 of their last 6 by a combined of 19 points. They have 8 games. I'm sorry, every game this season has been decided by a touchdown or less. They're not a team that blows you out. They like to run the ball more than you realize. Like Mac is a great play, obviously, this week in fantasy. Like I just feel like they're going to play slow. Fitzpatrick, say what you will, like is a competent quarterback. Yeah, he's obviously mistake prone, but I think he can put up enough points. And this was the game that I was referring to where the total is 44, maybe 44 and a half, which is not super low, but it's kind of in a medium zone where if you're giving me 10 and a half points against a team that just doesn't score a ton of points, like isn't blowing people out, just seems like a good spot. I mean, I guess you have the kind of letdown potential with Miami after they blew their perfect season last week by winning. I don't know. Is that a crazy play here?
no, honestly, it feels pretty gross, but you are right in the sense that this just has the type of game where you look and it's the Colts are in full control, but it never gets out of hand. 10.5. They're gonna lean on Marlon Mack. We know Hilton's banged up. Brissett is banged up. A
Yeah.
lot of things. The Colts defense MO is limit big plays. They play that zone. I think Miami kind of moves the ball enough underneath to keep the game honest. I know Preston Williams on IR. They're going to have to lean on. I mean, they don't have a great team. We all know this. This isn't the Jets they're playing, but they are in the dome. You better, I'm assuming you're hoping it's a lower scoring game where these points
Yeah,
are
for sure.
important.
For sure. The line has actually come down significantly, which obviously I don't love getting it at 10 and a half when
Yeah,
there's
11 and a half
11
is
and
on
a
my.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it opened at 15 and a half, which I think was probably a week ago. That's probably the early line was 15 and a half. So obviously I don't love taking significantly the worst of the number here, but you're kind of forcing me to do so with the way that we're
Yeah.
doing this. So
And truth be told, I know you would agree with, like, yes, of course, 15 and a half, but we're not going to talk about that. The difference between 10 and a half, 11 and a half, 12 and those are not super key numbers. Of course, if it crossed somehow 10, then you'd have a serious problem, and that'd be a whole
yeah,
different story.
yeah, for sure. And I thought I had seen some tens, but maybe I hadn't seen that. So at 10, obviously I don't like it as much as 10 and a half. Crossing 10 there is important. So it's kind of just hold your nose, I think, with all my picks this week. So we're going to see. I guess I'm giving my last stinker right now.
Sure, go for it.
Uh, this one might be the most painful of them all.
God, I'm interested. I'm like looking. Oh, is it the Bengals?
The Bengals.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Carry
The
on.
Bungles. Yeah, the Bungles getting 10 points at home against the Ravens, division spot. They already played each other. I heard you and Randone were talking about this in the show before. They played in week 6. The Ravens won 23-17. The Ravens were an 11-point favorite in that game. So we're almost getting the same spread when the Ravens were at home versus on the road, which a lot has happened since then. But primarily, this is just kind of a letdown spot for me coming off the huge win for the Ravens against the Pats last week. It's a short week for the Ravens, and you have the Bengals coming off a bye. Like that alone, is something that kind of is a flag for me, or at least something that I'm going to look at. the big unknown, of course, is Ryan Finley. So talk to me about NC State football. How did Ryan Finley look? Can I rely on him to not be horrible? I just need like average quarterback play. I guess the
That's
theme of all my picks is just run the ball, slow the game down, and don't screw it up for me.
that's this is a real interesting game. I looked at Cincinnati close, but the problem with them is they can't run. Like Joe Mixon, in theory, should be in a good spot, but they actually
Should.
can't run the ball.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to happen if Ryan Finley has to drop back 35, 40 times. This is a guy that, yes, in college he looked all right. NC State is the quarterback mecca. 4 starting quarterbacks in the league are all from NC State.
That's incredible.
1/8 of the league. I don't understand how that's possible, but it's true.
Wow.
God, I'm not touching the game.
It's ugly.
If I had to take a position, it would certainly be the Bengals. I don't like the spot for the Ravens. They already beat the team. You mentioned short week on the road, a lot of points in this game. Another total 44, I see.
Similar,
it could be an ugly game, but we just don't know what Ryan Finley. The range of outcomes on him is gigantic, and most of them fall in a very bad range. So
yeah, if he has to throw the ball with any volume, then I'm pretty sure it all is lost at that point. Like the Ravens, their secondary is the strength of their defense. Jimmy Smith's back. They got Peters in the trade, which is one of the reasons I was really like the Ravens last week. Like they were just getting healthy. You can run on them, so that's where I really need Mixon and the team to just pound the ball and slow the game down and shorten the game. All those cliches, but when you're a home dog of 10 points, like you just got to keep the game close and not put your quarterback in some bad, game scripts and kind of down in distances. They had the week off to instill the offense that he's going to run. I mean, who knows what that looks like? E.G. Green, like what is going on there? It sounds like he's out.
Yeah, he's not
again. Yeah. Yep. Earlier this week he was in, and now he had a setback. Not a good look. I would have preferred, of course, to have him on the field, but
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's a rough week for me with these 3 teams.
Hey, we'll see. I'm always I've taken some bad teams in my time. Before we get to my next pick, how much do you guys weigh trends, or is it just a tiebreaker? Well, I think for purposes of this show, I think it's fun to throw out some stats and trends that are interesting. Trends that like date back and stuff, I weigh 0. I don't think it's correlated at all. It's more interesting than actual usefulness because you can find one that leads you to any bet you want if you search hard enough.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. If it's something, based on this season or maybe 2 seasons, that's a little bit more reliable than like you'll see these trends over like 30 games.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
like I saw a trend about the 49ers on Monday night. I mean, you're going back to like Montana and Steve Young with these numbers. Like, who cares? How is that relevant?
That's really, to me, you see a trend, just ask yourself, does this have any impact on what's going to happen on Sunday? And most likely the answer is going to be no. If it's a trend like you're saying where it's a specific player and it's like he has bad road splits or something, then of course. But you also have to keep in mind stuff is factored into the line. So, if you think it's not weighted heavily, and you can exploit it, but I don't weigh too crazy on that. My last pick is really, I didn't love a ton of games, and I'll just get to it. It's Tampa at home. They're 4.5-point favorite. I don't love it. I'm not a believer really in the Cardinals, and I think Jameis has shown enough. If he can just limit the turnovers, this is a team that has so much upside week in and week out. They go home against a bad Arizona team. I know points should be had on both sides, but I think this is, I don't want to say a get right spot because Tampa's never going to get right. They're just not, they're not good. Yeah. But at the same time, just the level of competition, they've had a brutal stretch. Teams like the Rams, the Seahawks, and they've hung in. They beat the Rams on the road. I think this is a spot against Arizona. They really can exploit them. Ronald Jones has kind of stepped up in that running back game. O.J. Howard is back. We'll see on that. Evans, Godwin, limit the turnovers, force Kyler to beat you because Tampa sports the best run defense in the entire league right now. Yep. And I think that comes into play this week.
I do like it. Tampa's been a team that I feel like I'm constantly, backing. And this is such a good spot. They haven't been home in it's either 6 or 7 weeks.
That's like the Raiders. They weren't home for like eons, and now they're crazy.
Yeah, like they were in London. They had 3 or 4 road games. Like it's hard to even comprehend how you can't play at home in 6 weeks on a 16-week schedule, a 17-week schedule with 16 games. I'm with you. I mean, Arizona's been a lot better than I think we talked, early in the season that both of us thought they were going to be. But their secondary, even with Peterson back, like it's so exploitable. Like this should be a great spot for Tampa Bay. Uh, how did Tampa Bay not go for two to win the game in Seattle?
I
Like
don't. Uh, it- the
I
fact that
don't.
they already lost a game with this kicker against the Giants, it was a
Yeah, exactly.
obvious go for two spot. Um, and then again, talk about they ended up giving up a touchdown. They didn't even cover. So,
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor there. So, I like I said, I don't love the game to be honest, but it was good enough at that number for me to lock in. Nolan's last pick, I credit to him. He took some brutally tough games, in my opinion. He has the Seahawks plus
yeah.
5.5 on the road going into San Fran on Monday night.
I'm looking right now, and our site that we use says 6, so we cannot let him get 5.5. I guess we'll give him the extra hook, huh?
Yeah, because we're nice guys.
Yeah,
Um, this is I have no idea. San Francisco continues to defy me. I really don't think they're that good, but they've got a formula, of course, and credit where credit is due. Jimmy G finally had to step up. Now it was
yeah,
against the Cardinals, but he did. They were in a little trouble there, and he looked good. We'll see. I don't think Seattle's that good either, so maybe I'm just a hater on this entire
yeah.
NFC West.
Ben, obviously you haven't heard the trend that the Niners have not lost on Monday Night Football. I forgot what it was, but it's something like absurd, like in 30 years or something.
There you go. Chat. I didn't know
Lock it
that.
up.
Lock it up. 1,000 unit play. Just put it in there.
Actually, yeah, I kind of do lean the 49ers, but it's such a tough spot. Like I do think Seattle's a little bit smoke and mirrors just with
They are.
like Russell Wilson. Like the defense is not that great. Yeah, they've made some trades to like improve their team. I don't know how Josh Gordon's going to fit in. That's almost irrelevant to me just because Russell Wilson is so good. Yeah, it's such a tough game. I can't wait to watch it. Like it's the
Oh,
best Monday night game in a long time. They've had so many stinkers in a row.
it's going to be great. I will let others try to infer. If you have a line on that game, more power to you. But for me, I don't really know how Seattle will react to this type of rushing attack. And on the flip side, I know Russell Wilson is unbelievable, and he can diffuse pressure better than anyone I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
But the pressure that Bosa and them put on teams is just different right now, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do that outside of Seattle.
Yeah, it's a fascinating game. Definitely one I'm really interested in and can't wait to watch. As he gets closer, maybe I'll find the position or something, maybe in game, but
Yeah,
probably a stay away from me as well.
yeah, and some games are like that. You can't force it. Uh, I certainly try not to, especially in the NFL. There's just better spots to attack. Real quick, we'll go to Survivor, and then we can talk some egregious stuff. I'm keeping it very simple. I see no chance that the Saints lose off a bye. Their schedule gets a little tougher. I don't see great spots down the road to take them. Laying their double-digit favorite, I'll take the Saints and Survivor.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I think we need to do a better job at organizing. I couldn't remember if I had taken the Saints or not. I've also lost, I think, 2 times already in this
Yeah, I have the
Survivor thing we're
luxury
doing.
because I write an article, so I know who I've taken. Available on the site for anyone that's in Survivor pools. Go check that out. Has a full breakdown of the week. So I know I haven't used the Saints. We'll give you the Saints if you want them because I have no idea.
I'll, well, I was going to say the Colts, and I
Oh,
know that's Nolan's pick, but I'm going to go with the Saints too. I'm nearly positive I haven't used the Saints because it's a team that I was holding off on. Yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously they're a double-digit favorite. It's a good spot. I think Matt Ryan's playing, but I don't think that really matters to
no.
me. I think that defense is just too good,
Yeah, they're
and
going to
with
get
Breeze
pressure.
back, they're going to roll them.
No doubt.
Yeah, I almost thought about laying those points in this for our discussion here, but
I don't hate
I went with all the stinky teams.
it. I mean, they should roll with Breeze back and whatnot. And is O line D line matchup baked into the lines? I'm sure it is, but it doesn't mean that you can't look at that and try to glean information. Everything's kind of in there, but if you
Yeah.
think, wow, I think this team has a huge advantage, that's going to be the difference, then that's something to very strongly consider. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. Okay, so that's Survivor. We got about 10 minutes here until the Yahoo NFL Strategy Show. Do you want to talk college football? There's a huge game Saturday between two undefeated teams that we should probably talk about. Penn State,
Yeah,
Minnesota.
I, believe me, I have a lot more interest in that game.
Than some other game.
That's the biggest game in Minnesota. I don't know, maybe like in like 100 years. They haven't been
Minnesota football. Oh, it's got to be.
like it's true. So we'll see what they're made of. The LSU game, I can't wait to watch it. Of course, I have
Yeah.
no position. If I had to take one, I like Bama in the game. Pending Tua is all right. I don't think that LSU. First of all, neither of these teams' defenses are that good. It's not like what we've used to seeing.
Yeah, it's not the traditional Bama defense for sure.
No doubt. And LSU does have a freshman cornerback in Derek Stingley who is going to be a absolute monster in the pros in a couple years. That's not really relevant right now, though. Alabama has, Judy, Waddle, Smith. They've got guys on guys, Ruggs, plus a stable of backs. They're going to spread them out. I think it's going to be a traditional vintage Bama performance. If Burrow can keep up, more power to him. But on the road, just stepping back real quick, LSU, great win at Texas. Everyone was like, oh my God, Texas is not good, it turns out. So I know it
turns out
great, but maybe it wasn't as dynamic as we've seen. So I'm rooting for LSU. I just don't think they're going to win.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that game. I'm also rooting for LSU, but are there any other college games you want to talk about? You want to get into some college hoops? I know you and I are both big college hoops fans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, again, I'll have articles posted breaking down the DFS side of college football next week, or tomorrow rather. I like that better than betting. I don't have a ton to say on the betting side. I looked at Arkansas. They're 2-7. They're starting Jerry Jones's grandson. They've made the move to him.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
They play Western Kentucky, and this is just a situation where SEC teams who have been beat up by Bama and Auburn and those type of teams, now they get a team that they will dominate in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The spread is only 1 point, and I know Arkansas is terrible, but I think they do enough to just really outmuscle a Western Kentucky team that's the opposite. They've been beating up on teams like Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion. That's about it, though. I may have some plays tomorrow in game and whatnot, but not a great spread. I will say real quick, and then we can move on to whatever you want. I don't know if you saw this. Chase Young got suspended for Ohio State.
I did see that.
What a stooge. So that could be a huge factor long term. They're 43-point favorite against Maryland. Won't matter tomorrow.
Are you taking the 43 points?
I certainly am not, because Maryland is awful. But that's where we're at. But what else you got? You want to talk NBA? You want to talk college hoops? Either works for me.
Oh man, we got a whole 5 minutes here. We could do hours on both.
I know. Sad.
I do want to get your thoughts. A couple of college basketball teams that I've been looking at.
Please.
One of which is no strong take, but I mean they're a top 5 or 10 team in the country right now. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of Virginia. I don't think quite as good as Virginia was last year. Obviously, Virginia had the season before where they were already like the number 1 team in the country. But I really like Louisville this year. They're, like I said, this isn't like some crazy take, but you can get them at 14 or 15 to 1 right now to win it all. I really like they're bringing back basically everybody. Jordan Nwora, their leading scorer, had declared for the draft, but withdrew his name during the process. So he's coming back. They've got this transfer from St. Joe's, Lamar Kimball. I hadn't heard much about him, but just like digging into his stats, his nickname is Fresh, which I just kind of like that his name is Fresh Kimball. Do you know much about him? But I just really like the team. They have a lot of guys who can score. They've got a couple big games on the schedule coming up. They play Kentucky. They play Michigan in the next few weeks or maybe a month or so. So we're going to learn a lot about the team, but it just seems like a really quality team. Chris Mack is their second-year coach. They got him from Xavier. I think he's a pretty good coach. What do you think about Louisville? Can we get away from the stink of Pitino?
Yeah, I do like it. I think actually they are the best team in the ACC, and we're going to find that out. Nwora is, I think, the best player in that conference as well. I know Cole Anthony is going to be amazing, and
everybody's talking about him. Yeah,
he's very, very good. We'll see though. This guy, Louisville is. So I get what you're saying with the Virginia. Obviously, they're not the same because Virginia holds teams, as you saw against Syracuse, to 30 points. That's just different. Yeah. But Louisville is a very balanced attack. They have a little of everything. They've got, like you said, a transfer. They have a true go-get-me-a-bucket type player. They have guys like McMahon who can shoot from 3. They have plenty of size. So it's really everything you want on the surface. And in a year right now, I know it's early, and you can say this most years. There's really not a great team. I mean, obviously Michigan State's not invincible.
Clearly
Incredibly
not.
sloppy, and we're going to see that time and time again. I think there are teams like Memphis people are talking about. I'm not
Hmm.
on that at all. I'm more apt to go with a team like Louisville, who has uh, that kind of balance. To me, Maryland is in a very similar situation. Bring back a lot with Cowan and Co. And I like their balance looking at them in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I do like them too. I know we only got a couple minutes here, but we could probably do a separate show on just college hoops right now.
No.
Um, I do want to just quickly tell me about Seton Hall. Like they're a lot more of a long shot to win it all, but I do like kind of what they're bringing back. They had a good recruiting class, and they get a transfer. They play Michigan State and Oregon in the next couple weeks, so that's a team where you're really going to find out kind of where they're at least early in the season.
So to tell you the truth, like I said, Seton Hall is not a team that I know a ton about, but I'll say this: you don't need to, because they have a formula to win the tournament. They have the best player on the court every night. Miles Powell
Miles Powell.
is a National Player of the Year candidate. He could do what Kemba did with UConn. This is a guy that can take over any game, and they have enough around him that it can be done. So we will see. They're gonna go as he goes. They need him night in and night out because he has to carry them. But
Yeah.
boy, is he ready to do that! Guy is unbelievable.
I love him. I love watching him play. There's like 60-1 right now, so that caught my eye just in the futures market. Are there any teams or any games like this weekend before we get out of here in college hoops that you're looking at?
So we'll see. I'm gonna have an article. I'm waiting for the lines to drop for Saturday. There's a lot of tournaments. There's games in Alaska tonight. There's games in China tonight. So we'll have to
Oh
wait and
wow.
see. But really, for me, what I just some words of wisdom, and we'll get out of here. What I try to do early in the season is try to catch on to transfers that are eligible and teams that have lost all their production. So Nebraska is
Mm.
the obvious choice, and it makes me sound a lot smarter than I am because they've only played one game. They were 16-point favorite and they got blown out. They only have one player, not starter, one player returning from that team last year. Uh, I picked up on that, identified it. Pretty easy spot in my opinion. Now it doesn't always work like that, but for me, just try to look at teams that are really gutted and have difficult time replacing what was a really good core, especially in those middle ranks where they don't reload with all star freshmen.
That's such a good point because especially early in the season where it takes time to kind of get a new team together and really learn,
Yeah,
how to play with each other. Like that for sure is such a great point.
it happens. Turnover. Like I said, you look at like Kentucky, it's like, oh, they lost everyone. That doesn't matter because they
Yeah,
have.
it's not the same.
It's really not. But like a team like Nebraska and some of these other lower end teams, they can't just retool. So keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, find us in Slack for sure.
For sure. Yeah, we'll both be in Slack talking a lot going on this weekend. Like we said, we got to get out of here. We got the Yahoo NFL strategy show with Nolan Kelly. Oh, Nolan, I thought he was going to be on our show.
Yeah, too good. He's sticking with the man. Can't blame him
Yeah,
for that.
I can't blame him with that. So he's with Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. Probably a good decision by Nolan to go there. So for me and Ben, good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.